All right, welcome to this edition of Always Bayern Chelsea. I guess the first thing to mention is we're on video right now. I think it's working. It seems like it's working. But if it's not working, we'll just have to cut all this out. So, welcome.
Either way, it's awesome, whether it works or whether it doesn't work.
Yeah, well, I guess if for some reason you're just listening to this for the first time, this is a show where my bud Jim and I talk about football. Or soccer, I guess as we call it here. And it is currently Wednesday, April 3rd, 2024. By the time this gets published, it might actually be Thursday, April 4th. I guess I should mention too with the video, this will be posted on our YouTube channel, which is always Bayern Chelsea. And Jim's going to give us a little bit of an update here from his excursions across the pond. But if you're also not following us on Twitter at Always Bay Che, Always Bayern Chelsea, you can see some beautiful photos and videos there too.
And you mentioned the football soccer. We've discussed that multiple times on this pod. I did talk to a couple locals, some Londoners, some foreigners that were kind of discussing whether I called it football or soccer. And one guy asked how popular the sport is in America. So it was kind of interesting to have that conversation.
I feel like it's on the up and up from what I've heard recently, but I would love it if like MLS got bigger.
Yeah, I mean that's pretty much what I told the guy is it's gotten a lot bigger in the last few years. Was kind of talking to him about Chelsea in general. So I mentioned how Chelsea does the preseason tours in America, which is why it's kind of gotten bigger. And he knew about how important the women's national team is in the USA. So it's obviously big enough where they're kind of taking notice at how special of a team they are, except for the last World Cup. We'll forget about that one.
Yep,
But other
yep.
than that, it was kind of cool to see that, to be honest.
Cool. Well, do you want to talk about I guess anything you didn't mention last time about the match at Stamford Bridge? I guess or just talk about the tour, whatever you want.
Would love to. Yeah. I mean, I clearly didn't give a ton of thoughts in the moment. It was pretty devastating to get a
Understandable.
draw against the second to last place in the table, Burnley. Really just a sad excuse of a team Burnley is. No offense to JJ Watt. Yeah, I mean, even this London guy I was talking to, we had said that they were playing Burnley, and his response was, "Oh, so I assume Chelsea won?"
Ooh.
And obviously, I had to sadly inform them they lost. Yeah, it was very interesting. Definitely should have won. I mean, had so many chances. It was crazy. Just really selfish play from what I've seen. Rewatching some of the highlights, a lot of chances where they didn't pass, and it kind of was terrible to see. Hopefully, they kind of fix that. I don't know. It's kind of been a microcosm of how the season has been. So I can't say I was that surprised, but at the same time, as I mentioned, very disappointed overall.
Sure.
I don't know. It just the vibe was kind of off too. I I kind of was coming in expecting all these nutty English football fans, and they're all
Hooligans.
crazy and pretty much. And I had kind of mentioned in a pod that Chelsea's not known for its amazing chance or anything, but you could just tell it was a subdued environment,
Hmm.
and that's probably because they're just middle of the table this year. So while it was still awesome to be there, and I'll never forget it, certainly, was a little disappointed in that, I would say.
Okay. Well, that's a good raw, honest take. And I wanted to ask you too, because you kind of mentioned it as you were talking about some selfish play. I noticed that a little bit with Palmer. I think you sent me a video about it. Do you think that the like lack of passing or lack of like looking to pass from Chelsea or at least a couple times Palmer, is that like a coaching decision, do you think, to be like, hey, get the ball to Palmer, like he's got to score, he's a great goal scorer, or is that more of like individual players being like, I need to take my chances myself?
I'd say it's both because Poch actually admitted after the match and this is crazy, but he admitted that at times it seems like when they struggle, players kind of just give the ball to Palmer and say, "Let's hope for the best," which is just absurd to admit.
Yeah.
But it's also they have all these individual players that are young, learning how to play with a team, haven't had a ton of first team experience with these senior clubs. So they're learning each other, learning how to play as a team. I don't know. And they're probably not super confident. They've missed a lot of chances in front of goal. They have all these chances, create all these expected goals, if you will, but
Yep.
haven't put a lot of them away. So maybe that's kind of why they are hesitant at times. So now they're maybe trying to do too much, and that's why they're being selfish. I don't know. It's kind of a combination of all those factors, I think.
Yeah, and I think too, with all the injuries that they've had, I'm sure it's almost impossible as a coach to like create tactical chances or like make tactical decisions when, the lineup's changing all the time and the players that you have available are changing all the time.
Yeah, it's certainly been interesting, and it doesn't help with all the injuries. Obviously, you rely on certain players to score goals. You sign Christopher Nkunku, as I mentioned multiple times, and you
Yep.
expect him to score all these goals for you, and then obviously you don't have him the entire year. Now it sounds like he might not come back at all. So yeah, it's been tough for sure, and that was really just what happened in that match against Burnley. And what also sucks is, and I think this is coaching, they have a lead and instantly give it up. And I can't tell you how many times that's happened this year. I mentioned it earlier. They literally would be 18th if you just looked at second half performance all year.
Wow.
18th. That's getting relegated.
Yeah. Wow. That's brutal. Um, well, yeah, I mean that totally checks out with like your reaction after the match and I think on the episode 3 that I had put out with my reaction too to the Bayern Dortmund match, like I was totally just dejected and like I don't know if anybody wants to hear your like live thoughts or I guess in that one clip and then my post-match reaction definitely listen to episode 3 of the Always Bayern Chelsea show. But that was a bummer of a day. Do you want to kind of go on and talk about the tour of the bridge that you had? Because that sounded like a sweet time. And as I said before, pictures and videos up on Twitter.
Of course, yeah. I appreciate you putting those up. And it was surreal, to say the least. I was kind of telling Anna, who's my girlfriend for the listeners listening out there, but I was telling her it kind of felt a little fake almost being at the match at times just because it had I don't want to say it had been a long time coming because I've briefly been a fan, but kind of was because I've been waiting for it for so long since I've been a fan,
Sure.
and just being at the stadium the next 2 days after for the tour kind of tied it all in a bow in just an amazing way. So I'll kind of run through briefly what we all saw, and it was really incredible. I mean, we started with the museum, which takes you through history, takes you through the greatest players' videos, trophies, mementos of the team. Incredible to see all those key pieces of history of the team. And then you go into the stadium, you go into the seats, the press box, out near the field, you can see the grass, which is 95% real grass, incredible grass. They got the sprinklers going. They got these artificial lighters that are making sure the grass grows because there's not enough sun in London.
Wow.
You see just the beauty of the stadium, and it's incredible. And you got this guy that's leading the tour that has the energy. His name was Ron, called himself Ronaldo. I mean, it was in all ways incredible. And then you even get to go back, see the away and home locker room, which maybe people know this, maybe not. They purposely make the away locker room so tiny, so shitty. I mean, it's unreal. And I think most teams do this, kind of an intimidation thing. It's crazy. You're in there. We had maybe 30 of us, let's say, which is roughly a team if you consider players, coaches,
Yeah,
everybody.
staff, yeah.
You can you can barely fit in there, and there's hardly lockers. I mean, it's a joke, a complete
Yeah.
joke. And these are professionals.
Yeah.
And they said at one point that they wouldn't even have hot water for them, and they changed that years ago. But it's crazy the difference. And then the home locker room, incredible. Can see all the jerseys. I took a picture, of course, by my boy Misha Mudrik's jersey, the number 10,
Beautiful
which
image.
was awesome. It was beautiful, and probably the coolest part, and which video was posted today, was we got to essentially line up as if we were the players. So how they line up, captains first, goalies, etc., etc. You line up as two teams. You touch this Chelsea board as you're walking up. The music's playing, the same music they play when they actually play at Stamford Bridge. And you
That's
step
cool.
out, not quite on the field. You can't step on the field because they don't want us ruining it, of course. Um, but yeah, that was really cool. And then we kind of got to go around further to one of the ends and sit more and learn more. And overall, just really amazing. Truly blessed to have been able to go to London, to Chelsea, to see that, and really just confirms my love for the team.
Yeah, the ultimate fan experience. That's cool. Um, well, sweet. I think I guess I'll keep things moving with I guess some news that broke from the standpoint of Bayern Munich. And I don't know how much like news we'll really get into because in this program in general, because there's just rumors and the media talking every day, it seems like. But this is a pretty substantial piece of news for Bayern Munich, so I'll just put it out here for the show. I believe it was last weekend or maybe the end of last week, Xabi Alonso had announced that next season he will be staying as the manager of Bayer Leverkusen. And I tweeted about this when it happened, but Xabi was Bayern Munich's number one plan A candidate to replace Thomas Tuchel next season. As we mentioned, Tuchel is no longer going to be the manager of Bayern Munich come the summertime. So I think that's a good move for Alonso personally, professionally. I mean, he's a young guy. Next year he'll have the Champions League. Um, Obviously, I'm bummed about it as a Bayern fan, but I think that to me, this signals that he might be heading to Madrid in 2025. I guess we'll see what their coaching situation is like, but that's my inkling as to what he wants to do. Um, but as I mentioned, I think last time, I don't think anybody really knows except for Xabi Alonso what Xabi Alonso's thinking and what he's going to do.
Yeah, I would say from what I've kind of read, I think it's a smart decision overall by Alonso for a couple of reasons. Number one being he's very young, as you said. I think it gives him a great opportunity to hone in his managerial skills, the style that he's going to want to coach, types of players that he might want to recruit, how he's going to build a culture over at least a couple of years. He's been at Leverkusen, I think at least a couple of years now, so he's going to continue to build that at least one more year. And then I think the second reason being that he's going to be able to evaluate his options further, not kind of just throw himself into one job that might be kind of a firestorm. No offense to Bayern or Liverpool, but they're so big, so many expectations, so much uncertainty. Liverpool, you're following one of the greats. Bayern, it's just kind of been a little bit of a mess, and it's such a big
Turmoil.
club.
Yep.
So, I kind of understand why he's making that decision as of now.
Yeah, yeah, me too. So I guess that unfortunately for Bayern doesn't leave a great, in my opinion, I guess crop of potential coaches. I guess maybe that's a little bit harsh, but I think that Xabi Alonso was really the only person who is available, or I guess not available, but potentially available at this point who could like really go into Bayern and like right away make a big difference. Um, but yeah, right now there's talk about potential Nagelsmann return or Roberto De Zerbi from Brighton. So we'll see what happens, but those are right now the top two candidates.
Either would be crazy. Both have been linked to Chelsea over the last few years.
Yeah,
Nagelsmann interviewed for the Chelsea job. I think might have been when we hired Graham Potter actually, so it would have been, kind of like a year and a half ago-ish. Seems like a good guy. Obviously, the German coach right now, so that'd be interesting. De Zerbi at Brighton. Some say he's the next Pep. Some say tactically he's not the greatest. I don't know. Brighton lost a ton of players this year, so I don't blame him for not being amazing.
yeah.
Um, I would lean Nagelsmann for the Bayern job just due to his connections with Germany, that sort of thing. That's just me kind of without a ton of information.
I I think I would agree with that. I am having a hard time really getting on board with either candidate, honestly. And that's nothing against either one. I think what De Zerbi's done with Brighton is good. I don't know if his style of play necessarily would work the best at Bayern. And it's also like, yeah, I don't know if teams kind of figured out his tactics. Yeah, I don't think he'd be a bad coach. It might be good to have somebody fresh and new come in. Um, but like you mentioned with Nagelsmann, he knows the team. I mean, he knows so many of the players personally, and I don't think he was doing that bad of a job when he got sacked at Bayern. I think that it was premature to sack him. I guess the board at the time just wanted to go out and get Tuchel, but I think Nagelsmann's fault with Bayern, outside of maybe like not getting along with some people who are high up, would be his tendency to kind of over tinker and kind of not be able to help himself from making a bunch of changes instead of sticking with something. But to be fair, he's young. He's still, I think, figuring out his own tactics. So it might come back. It might come to that. It might come to Nagelsmann coming back to Bayern, and I don't know if that'd be the worst thing in the world, honestly.
Yeah, that's fair.
Um, okay, so do you have any other like news or topics you wanted to talk about, or should we just jump into the match previews for the weekend?
Just off the top of my head, a couple Chelsea items I can think of. Re-signed Elfie Gilchrist to a new contract. A lot of people probably don't even know who that name is. He's made a couple appearances,
Yeah, I
academy
don't know who
guy.
that is.
It's it's funny because Chelsea apparently thinks it's going to make fans happy because they're re-signing an academy product and not just selling them for profit. When in
Mhm.
actuality, nobody really cares that much because yeah, he's a fun young player that came in late in a couple matches and works hard, but ultimately he might not even be that important of a player. So just kind of a more hilarious thing. But besides that, the news has been the same. Just quotes and all this junk about Potch and whether to sack him, how long he's got, what the owners are thinking of, la di da di da. Not to mention a Forbes article drops with Todd Bailey on the cover, the owner of Chelsea, and I don't know, all hell breaks loose. He's talking about process, give him time, all this stuff. It's just kind of the norm at Chelsea, so
That's what
nothing
I've
too
heard.
crazy, even though it is crazy.
Yeah, I feel like that's always like what I hear Poch saying in ownership is like, just give them time. We're trying to build, which I guess is fair to say, but I know that fans aren't going to necessarily appreciate that.
Trust the process. Ask the Philadelphia 76ers how that worked out. They still
Yeah.
don't have a ring.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a good point. Oh man. Okay. Well, I can jump into to Bayern at Heidenheim this weekend if you want, unless you'd rather go with Chelsea first.
No, go ahead. As long as you tell me where Heidenheim is in Germany, because I've never heard of that place.
Oh man, I would venture a guess that it's north of Munich. Munich is pretty far south. Um, but yeah, so Saturday, April 6th. Yeah, Saturday, April 6th. Bayern goes to Heidenheim for match day 28 in the Bundesliga. For all these great Central Time listeners, that'll be at 8:30 a.m. Central Standard Time here in the States. Um, and yeah, I guess just a quick breakdown of how that match is shaping up right now. Bayern remains second in the Bundesliga with 60 points after that disappointing display against Dortmund last Saturday. Again, listen to episode 3 if you want to hear my thoughts about that. And Heidenheim right now is 11th in the Bundesliga with 30 points. I guess technically they're tied, I think, with Bremen for 10th, but they're like one less in goal differential or something. So they sit at 11th right now. Um, last 5 Bundesliga matches for Bayern, they've won 3, drew 1, and lost 1 that last weekend to Dortmund. So Heidenheim in their last 5 Bundesliga matches has 0 wins, 3 draws, and 2 losses. But I guess it's noteworthy that their last match was a draw against Stuttgart, who is right behind Bayern in the Bundesliga. Um, so I think that Heidenheim will put up a fight, and I think that this could potentially be like one of those trap games for Bayern because if they put up a performance as flat as they did against Dortmund, then combined with the injuries that they're dealing with, there's a chance that they draw or lose this one. I'm hoping that the players won't just be like looking forward to next Tuesday's match against Arsenal in the Champions League, but um, I guess we're gonna have to wait and see. The last time Bayern played
Yeah,
Heidenheim, it was 4-2. Bayern won.
and I was going to add, assuming that that Arsenal match was next week, sounds like it is. So it's kind of a double worry game just because you're coming off of this big high against your rival. Now you got this Champions League match. So
It worries me. I'm not gonna lie, it does worry me.
yeah, I mean matches like that where you have a big one coming up. I think we both probably agreed Champions League a little more top of the mind priority wise for fans and probably the team at Bayern. So
Especially right now
things
with the Bundesliga
certainly
out
can
of
be
reach.
interesting.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah. Okay, so now I will kind of jump in here with a lineup preview slash prediction for Bayern and Heidenheim. From the Bayern side of things, as I mentioned before, Bayern is kind of dealing with a lot of injuries. I don't know if potentially fatigue from the international break. I don't know if it's, just like fatigue from the entire season and certain players that Tuchel has kind of played nonstop are experiencing more injuries. So I think I'll just kind of go through as we did last time. Yeah, I think that the goalie situation, I'm assuming that Manuel Neuer is not quite going to be ready for Heidenheim. I hope and I think he's going to be ready for Arsenal, but I think that um, he's going to be resting and Sven Ulreich is going to be in between the sticks again for Bayern, which I kind of mentioned this last time. I thought the first goal he should have saved against Dortmund. Um, but he also had a couple of nice saves. It makes me feel a lot better when Manuel Neuer is the goalie. But yeah, I think Heidenheim is probably going to test Sven a little bit in the beginning there, and we'll see what happens. And then moving up to the left back, I this position I'm not really sure about, but I think that Rafael Guerrero is going to be healthy, and I have a feeling that Tuchel might start him over Alphonso Davies. Just because it seemed like Tuchel liked him, and there's a lot of drama happening with Davies and his contract situation right now. And quite frankly, he didn't look good at all to me against Dortmund. Um, it was their second goal, I believe. He was like way far wide, and in my opinion, if he was kind of spaced a little bit closer to the middle. And even on the first goal, I think that he was kind of like nowhere to be found, which is a bit of a bummer.
Like a
So
base in Madrid.
yeah, exactly. I feel like a broken record saying that, so whatever. We'll leave it at that for now. Um, but anyways, yeah, right back, Joshua Kimmich. I thought he was probably Bayern's best player against Dortmund, so I have a feeling he's gonna stay at right back. Yeah, I hope he continues his hot streak at that position because that's a spot where Bayern is very thin right now, especially with injuries. And then I think that the center back situation is going to be a spot where Tuchel is going to make a change. I think he's going to move back to Kim Min-jae and Diad Upamecano as the center backs, even though I don't think Matthias de Ligt and Eric Dyer necessarily played that bad against Dortmund. Um, I have a feeling Tuchel might want to see what he has with Kim Min-jae and Upamecano and kind of like make that decision then after the match for Arsenal, you know. And you know, he can just say I'm resting Dyer, I'm resting Delict, you know. I don't think it's kind of like a win-win, you know. Um, but we'll see. Maybe
Yeah,
I'm
I mean,
wrong
I
and,
would
and he'll
save
just
Dyer
continue.
for his rival.
Yeah.
Dyer
Yeah,
against his rival Arsenal.
definitely. Yeah. Um, okay, and then moving up to the midfield, I thought that the midfield was pretty poor against Dortmund, and that's just a weak spot in Bayern's lineup overall. Um, but I think slash I hope that Alexander Pavlovich, the 19-year-old superstar, is going to be healthy, and hopefully that'll put him back in the starting lineup, and then hopefully that will also improve Leon Goretzka's play because for some reason, as soon as Konrad Leimer was there next to him, he kind of didn't perform up to how he had been performing the last three matches too. So we're gonna hope Pavlovich is done with his tonsillitis and maybe he'll get those tonsils removed in the summer. Okay, and then moving up kind of to the attacking side. We saw this week, actually today, I believe it was, or maybe yesterday, but Leroy Sané and Kingsley Coman both seem to be banged up, to say the least. And I have a feeling both of them are gonna rest. I think it would be wise if both of them rest. Sané has, I don't even know how many miles on his legs this season, and he's slumping bad right now. So I think that you could do like a Musiala and Tell wing situation. Maybe Tuchel will start Gnabry over Tell since Gnabry's been healthy and playing well. Um, but I think those will kind of be the wings. I think Muller will stay at the 10, and then I think Kane, who played against Dortmund, was probably a little bit banged up still. I think he's gonna play again and be the striker.
Would love to see Kane play again. Yeah.
I'm gonna go with 2-1 Bayern. I have to be optimistic, although, like I said, I think it is a trap match. I would not be surprised at all with a draw or dare I say a loss. Um, I think that yeah, I don't know. I mean, just if on paper, like it's hard to not pick Bayern. I think that Kane's probably going to get a goal. Although I think it's going to be very close. And I think it potentially is going to go down to the wire and then be like a late goal, you know. And maybe Gnabry or Tell or someone like that'll score too. But yeah, I think Heidenheim is gonna be pretty aggressive, uh, especially in the start with Sven between the sticks.
Frankly, I think that aggression might be unwarranted, and I think Bayern might take advantage. I honestly, I not having looked much into their team,
Hmm.
I think it's one of those moments where Bayern does show just their quality. And I know it's away, and you got Arsenal coming up. But if I had to predict, once again, without knowing much,
Hmm.
something inside me says Bayern 3-0.
Whoa, that'd be awesome. Um, a clean sheet. Interesting. I like that. I like that prediction a lot. Okay, so do you want to take it away with a preview for Chelsea's big match against Manchester United?
We'll do. Yeah, so as we mentioned, it's Wednesday right now. almost Thursday for me here in Brussels, Belgium. Beautiful, incredible city, I might add.
Have to
And
post some
Chelsea
photos of it.
plays Manchester United. I will. I definitely will. And whether it's the fans seeing it on my personal page, if you follow me there, or the regular account, we'll see. But yeah, so Chelsea plays Man United Thursday evening, very late from where I am. In London, it's 8:15 p.m. 9:15 for me, which will be in Bruges, Belgium tomorrow, and then 2:15 in Milwaukee time, Central Time. So pretty big match. I mean, it's back home matches for Chelsea at the Bridge, and I'm not going to call it a must win, but kind of leaning that way. Burnley was certainly a must win, and they didn't get a win. So really need to show some heart at least in this Man United game. And I'm not going to say either that it's win or go home for Poch, any of those things. I'm definitely wait till the end of the year at this point, but I need to see some things improve for sure. It'll be very interesting. I think the fans are starting to get more restless. Players too, it almost seems, with things that they've said, how they've kind of acted, seems as though they're getting a bit frustrated with how they've been playing. So yeah, it's definitely a massive match and still dealing with a lot of injuries and players that are playing well, some that aren't. It's just very interesting. And I think I'll give a little bit of a lineup preview of what I'd like to see and maybe what I think will happen.
Cool.
Um, I'd love to see Gusto play right back if he's healthy. He exited against Burnley. Sounds like he was in training and will play. Definitely need him out there. He's been so good for us, especially in the absence of Reece James. And if he does, then I think you'll just see Axel Disasi right back as usual. Probably Benoit Badiashile left back, unless they feel like going back to Thiago Silva. That's the jersey I'm wearing now.
Yeah.
Left
Looks
back,
good.
you're gonna see Mark Cucurella again. Appreciate it. Chilwell sounds like he's ill, so he's definitely not playing. So you'll see Cucurella again
Ill
in
well.
the three midfield spots. Nice, nice,
Thank
definitely
you.
is.
Thank you.
Um, but yeah, three midfield spots. You're probably going to see Enzo and Caicedo. In the cam spot, you'll probably see Conor Gallagher. I would love to see Carney Chukwuemeka if he's healthy enough. He's back training. I don't know if he's healthy for 90 minutes, so that's why I think you'll see Connor. Just don't love what I've been seeing from Connor. I like him as a player. I just think he's a guy you want as more of your backup option. And Carney Chukwuemeka is just a little more electric in that spot, if you will.
I
And
will.
then I think, at those three other attacking spots, would love to see Mudryk at left wing, of course. He's been
I
playing
would
so
too.
well, looked great against Burnley. Yeah, I mean, I sent you some of those videos, and he's just growing in confidence. You can tell. Then I
I
think you'll
mean,
see Cole
he,
Palmer.
Mudryk was one of the, in my opinion, from watching the Chelsea Burnley match, Mudryk was one of the like highlights for Chelsea. He was one of their better players, if you ask me.
He was, I would say, probably number two behind Cole Palmer. Maybe you'd also put him behind Melo Gusto. But yeah, in terms of the attacking options, he was looking great and probably should have had a couple of assists. So
Yeah.
that's why I think he'll get the start again, even though it's against a tougher opponent in United. Tougher, really, is kind of debatable there.
Yeah, they're having
Um,
some problems
Cole
too.
Palmer, though, at right wing for sure. Palmer, you're never going to see him out of the lineup unless it's against some scrub team like a Bayern Munich or something.
Oh, a stray for no reason.
um, and then yeah, you'll see Nico Jackson at the striker spot for sure. Really
Yeah.
nobody else at this point, unless you're going to bring in some young kid off the streets of Chelsea, which I maybe wouldn't be opposed to. But yeah, that'll be the lineup you'll probably see, and with some mixed in that I'd like to see. But a couple guys will come off the bench. We'll see probably a young team on the bench just because there's more injuries per usual, and that's honestly even to skip ahead to Sunday, that's probably similarly what they're going to put out against Sheffield,
Sure.
who's another poor team. But that's probably what they're going to have in both matches. And I would still say at this point, both are must wins. As I kind of jabbed at United there, they're just really not that good of a squad right now. They're also dealing with injuries and they have managerial problems, personnel problems, ownership problems. And no, I'm not talking about Chelsea. It's kind of all the same, honestly. So
Yeah, I've heard some
it'll
of
be
that too.
interesting. Yeah, I mean, we'll see what happens. I mean, either team really could win. My official prediction would probably be, I don't know, 2-2 maybe. I hate to throw the same score as the Burnley Chelsea game, but I think both teams give up too many goals and also don't score enough when they have the chances. So it's probably going to be a draw just because I don't see Chelsea winning, which sucks.
Yeah, that's a bummer. And I guess they Chelsea missed their chance. Maybe the Belgium national team will pick up a signing from a young man on the streets of Belgium now. Or where were you, Brussels or something? Yeah.
Yeah,
Bruges. You're gonna
Brussels,
be in
which is in
Bruges,
Belgium, yes.
and then you're gonna be in Bruges on
Yep, yep.
Thursday.
Yeah,
So
and a little tidbit I will add here is Belgium, one of their symbols is the mannequin peace,
mhm.
which is a statue of a little boy pissing on the streets of Brussels. A little fact is that when the Belgium national team plays in the World Cup, they dress them up in a Belgian kit. So pretty cool.
Wow, that is see, this is the kind of information that I think every other football podcast in the world is missing, to be honest.
Couldn't agree
And
more.
my Chelsea prediction is going to be a 1-1 draw against Manchester United. Um, but I think that Chelsea will bounce back against Sheffield and get a win there. But maybe we should
They
save that.
better. I mean, if they don't,
Yeah. Yeah. Maybe we
who
should save
knows?
that prediction.
Fair enough.
Okay, well, I can kind of wrap us up here unless you have anything else you want to say.
All I'll say for those listeners out there is, I'm gonna be watching intently with this United Chelsea game. I'll probably be, firing off a couple tweets in a Bruges bar, maybe after a
Yes.
couple brews. Hopefully things don't get crazy, but we'll see. And then I will also add, for the second time this year, on Sunday, I will be attempting to not watch Chelsea match live against Sheffield, as it's probably when I'm going to be driving back from Chicago. So, gonna do my best there. I'll probably just have to let either Danny run the controls or we'll just have
Dangerous.
to tweet after. But it should be interesting. So
Well, I kind of cut my teeth in the Chelsea tweeting last weekend against Burnley, so I think I'm feeling confident and ready to take the reins if I have to.
I would agree.
All right, well, I guess I'll let you enjoy your night, your Belgian night here, and like we kind of said at the top of the episode, this is a video podcast. If you don't know by now, I don't know what you're doing with your life, but check us out on YouTube at Always Bayern Chelsea. And if you want to see some more of Jim's international escapades, live match reactions, just overall news and thoughts, Always Bayern Chelsea at Always Bayche on Twitter. Um, yeah, Google. I guess Google Podcasts is gone now. I don't know why I started with Google. Spotify, Apple, YouTube, Twitter, wherever you want. Um, we got a busy schedule coming up for both Bayern Munich and for Chelsea. But as always, we're going to try to provide match previews and match reactions in this podcast program. Um, we're always going to try to tweet reactions and scores and news. So we'll do our best. But that'll do it for us today. So you know how I'm gonna end it. Go Bayern.
Up the Chelsea.